It takes a while. Okay. This is the first of a series of meetings that I'm hoping to hold on a weekly basis where I ask members to join us. Just basically as a general discussion group. One of those places we all know that being a town or city centre manager or a big manager can be quite a lonely job sometimes. And I think at the moment, the things that are thrown at us are a little bit unprecedented and we don't really know how to deal with them. So we all know that at the end of our regional meetings, we actually have that round table discussion. And we find that our networks actually enjoy that, listening to other people, being able to share and have that forum. So that's what these conversations were all about. So we're calling them the ATCM High Street Conversations. And it's just going to be a series of people that we get together on a call like this, just to give you 5 minutes each, to give us an update, what your concerns are, what it is that you're actually working on at the moment. And hopefully be able to vent something, share something, and know that the network's there for you to bounce ideas around. So who wants to go first today then? Can I put you on the spot there, Kat?
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, happy to go first, Karen.
Just tell us who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm Catherine Davies. I'm Economic Initiatives and Economic Marketing Coordinator at Rotherham Council. I'm part of the Rotherham Investment and Development Office with the investment arm of the council. So I obviously deal a lot with the town centre. So just to give you a bit of a picture of what we've been dealing with. But firstly, I'd just probably like to say that I found the ATCM base camp has been invaluable in the last 7 weeks. The information that's been provided has been such a great help for us, providing lots of information, case studies, etc. It's been really useful to see what other towns and cities are doing across the country. So
can I just stop you there a moment? I'll just let Mike come in now. Mike from Darlington is just. Where is he?
Oh, there he is.
Hello. Hi, Mike. Are you there? I don't know whether you can hear me or whether you're muted. Right, okay, you join us. Carry on, Catherine. Sorry.
No problem. So, yeah, so in terms of what we've been dealing with, we've been trying to communicate with businesses as much as possible. So we're sending regular updates out with information provided by the ATCM and the government. We're also updating all our social media channels and trying to promote businesses that are open and beginning to open. Last couple of weeks, we've seen sort of lots of food outlets like cafes and things saying that they're going to be reopening. So we're trying to help them as much as possible, let as many people as possible know that they're open with social distancing in place. And trying to promote that, like particularly the market traders, they're doing the butchers and greengrocers, they're offering deliveries and click and collect, which I think has provided a real boost to their business. We're also providing help and support to businesses on how to access any government funding and general overall advice. So far, the council has given out over £35 million of government grants, which is a positive, and hopefully that's helping the businesses. We're also contacting stores that have been open throughout the pandemic, i.e. chemists, food outlets, etc., just to see how they've adapted to the new norm, any advice and best practice they can provide for us to share with other retailers, and any issues they've found that, to make us and other retailers aware of. We're trying to observe how shoppers and pedestrians walk around the town centre to get a better understanding of social distancing and where we can place 2-metre markers and floor vinyls. The information that the likes of City Dressing have provided has been great. I particularly like what they did in Leamington Spa with the flowers on the floor vinyls. I think it's obviously something that we need to implement, but make it a little bit more fun. And I think there's another example of where they've done like quiz questions on each marker as well, which is pretty good. We're also looking at how people access the town centre. One of our most recent surveys has shown that 50% of users come into town by public transport. So obviously this is a bit of an issue that we need to look at. Also, we found that cycling it doesn't play a big part of how people come into Rotherham, just because of how the borough is laid out. I think it's quite difficult. So this again is something that we need to address. We did a lot of work on the recovery plan, both at council and city region level. The town centre plays a big part of that. I suppose it's a big unknown at the moment. As until shops begin to open, we won't know how it's going to affect their trade and footfall. I think it's a massive learning curve for everyone. We're trying to speak to as many businesses as possible to look at when they're reopening and offer them help and advice, social distancing guidelines. A few have been in touch this week about that. We're also trying to help businesses to look at how they can refocus, introduce initiatives like offering click and collect, which seems to have been a big growth recently, which I'm sure others have found as well. And we're also looking at how we can make it easier for hospitality businesses like cafes, etc., to trade when we know it's going to be likely that they're going to have reduced seating inside. So can we help them by removing barriers such as applying for planning permission and highways permits to have street cafe furniture? Can we do that as retrospective planning permission instead? So it'd be quite useful just to see how others have had experience of this as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Catherine. Just a quick one there. You mentioned, about people and cycling and things. What about public transport? How are you finding some of the issues there surrounding social distancing on public transport?
Well, I think it is a bit of a big issue. I know that South Yorkshire Transport, they're doing a limited service, which they're probably doing across the country. So there aren't as many services running, and really it's only for really aimed at key workers. So I think that the public might probably feel unsafe getting the bus. It's mainly the bus that people get rather than the trains, etc. So I think we're going to try and talk to SYPTE about how they're going to manage this, and look at how it is in the bus station. But I think it's a big issue for everyone. Yeah.
At the moment, obviously, we're on a very much reduced workforce. I'm sure the offices everybody's working, rather working from home like we are today, most of us. Yeah. And I'm sure that if people started to go back into work, those particular reduced services would start to feel the pressure. We've all seen what's happening in London at the moment with the provision not being there for the actual pressure of people that are actually wanting to get into that location. And what we're trying to avoid at the moment is, are we trying to avoid the second spike of the virus? Absolutely. Or is it just going to be one continuous spike that we're going for? Because it seems at the moment that's where we might be heading if we don't get that right as well. Yeah. So I think that's quite interesting. That's all quite positive. What about the negatives? What sort of things are the most challenging things that you've got at the moment?
So most challenging things is, I think, well, it's like with the public transport. Obviously, we've got a lot of people who come into town who use public transport, use the buses. How do we make it? How do we entice them back to the town centre? How do we make them aware that it's safe and that there's social distancing in place? I think that's one of our main issues, which is why I think it's important that we do a lot with marketing and communication to make them feel safe, to make them realise that lots of businesses are taking it on board. They've got queuing systems in place, it's safe, they've got hand sanitizers, everyone's keeping the distance. So that is one of our big issues, and something that we are quite keen on, that plays a big part in our recovery plan.
Yeah. Big market town, aren't you, as well, Rotherham?
Yes, yeah. So a few of the market traders open a couple of days a week. luckily, obviously, there's quite a few like fruit and veg and butchers, etc., bakers. They are all absolutely snowed under with, deliveries, click and collect, which is good. But obviously, there are the non-essential retail. They haven't reopened yet. So our markets manager, I think he's speaking with NABMAR and NMTF to look at ways of safely opening. We've already got 2-meter markers in place in the markets for when people are queuing. But in terms of queuing, that is, I think, one thing. I think was something on Basecamp about it earlier on in the week about queuing strategies, which is something we all need to take on board, because it's fine for people to be queuing outside a shop that's closed when the one next door is open, so they can put the markers outside that shop. But once the shop next door opens, how are they actually going to manage it?
Yeah,
so
that is actually something that's coming up quite a bit now. Yeah, and who would have thought 12 months ago we'd be looking at queue management in a job?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah. We never thought we'd be in this position ever.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that, Kat. Mike, is that an impressive selection of whiskey behind you there?
I'm very impressed by that.
Yeah, it is.
That is pretty impressive. Are they all empty? Are they all empty?
No.
All right. Okay. Wow.
Is it your personal stash?
Yeah.
Wow. Party time at my house. Right. Okay. Good.
It's part of my whiskey collection. Part of it.
Yeah.
So when I started being a bid manager, which I think the game.
You're phasing in and out there, Mike. You might want to pull your microphone a bit closer.
Right. Well, the microphone's built into the laptop, so can you hear me now?
Yeah, just if you speak up, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to do settings.
Have you got a speaker setting at the bottom of on the bottom right-hand corner? There's a microphone setting there.
Yeah, that just says turn off microphone. All
right, so there hasn't got a volume.
Oh. Hold on, let's just have a look at something else. More options. I've only got to change the display and things like that.
F8 on your keyboard probably does it.
F8. Hold on, so it's just disappeared. Hold on,
there you go. If you keep F8, keep tapping. Hold F, keep tapping 8, it'll go.
Oh, is that better?
Yeah, it's a little bit better. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's very important. That would explain why I want to bother. Okay. Right. I'm Mike Bushell. I'm at Sutton Coldfield Town Centre. Sutton Coldfield is a royal town within the city of Birmingham. It's quite a wealthy area. The situation in Sutton is that the town centre is surrounded by 4 other local centres, which are full of independent shops, convenience stores, and some of them have got the major supermarkets. So, in many ways, people have drifted to those local centres as a walking thing. Our town centre has 3 shopping centres, and it's full of major multiples. So there's very few stores actually open. We've got an Aldi and a B&M and a Boots and a Marks and Spencer and a WH Smith and a Marks and Spencer food all in, but very little else. A few of our restaurants are doing takeaways. We have a large office-based community, but obviously all those people are working from home. And it is really interesting to read a lot about how some office-based businesses aren't going to go back, or they won't renew their lease. They found that working from home suits, and I think it is it's reality. So what's going on? Firstly, there's been some great stuff from the ATCM. What has been of particular use in Birmingham has been to put pressure on the city council to get some of those grants paid, because ATCM released a spreadsheet in Excel form of performance of every local authority in England. So you can manoeuvre that around and find out how crap you are. And Birmingham were in the relegation zone. So that all the bids have used put a lot of pressure on city council. It has improved. So that has been really good. And lots of the other information you've been putting out has been good. My big chair, who manages the major shopping centre, was really impressed by something you put up about German shopping centre management the last couple of days. And they got a lot from that, so that's great. So thanks for it. So what we've been doing, well, firstly, I'm the sole employee of Sutton Coldfield. We don't have wardens or anything like that. We use certain people in a self-employed capacity around marketing. So a lot of the work we've been doing is actually been about getting ready for the return to work and how we promote the town centre. And one of the big projects that we've run the past couple of years is a big what's on for the town centre, and that includes churches and everything around Christmas and that one. And it's been a 30,000 print run distributed to the local paper. Well, we don't know if the local paper will come back.
Oh wow!
We just don't know. I mean, it's furloughed itself. So we are spending quite a bit of time working on moving that to a interactive online tool along with our customer loyalty scheme, which is also online and interactive and an app. So that is going on to be ready for when we come back. We've also set up a rough and ready website for the whole of Sutton Coldfield, so any business in Sutton Coldfield that is trading can advertise itself on it. We don't do anything. We just facilitate the fact that we've got it there, because we just want to help the population in general. What are we going to do about the return to work? Well, only starting to really think about it now. The main shopping centre, which has been open, has done a lot of work on that. The main public area in our town centre is one street, which is quite wide and pedestrianised. So that's where the focus of our activity will be. And just before I came on here, there was an exchange of emails about what we're going to do. So we'll be picking that up in the very near future. But I was noting down Catherine's comments, and I can see some of the issues you've had being the same where we are. So I'll be talking to the highways engineers and the city council to see what we can do. We have quite a lot of restaurants and pubs, and we're very worried about the future of our nighttime economy. We had Purple Flag up until the end of last year, but we actually pulled out of it because, for all sorts of reasons, it was becoming quite difficult as a centre to actually really maintain the standard. So we probably dodged a bullet with that one. Some are doing takeaways, but quite a few we just wonder whether they'll reopen. I think we actually don't think so. A particular problem that we have is with our board. Birmingham is very good on levy collection. Firstly, its performance of levy collection is very good. Secondly, their cash flowers. They go a great big chunk of money at the start of the financial year to get us going. However, next year is very good, and we think that levy collecting will be very poor, in which case we'll end up owing the city council money, and we may have a really big problem next year, actually, if we don't look to cut things now. The trouble is, if we cut things now, we should be actually spending money on promoting the town centre and doing all the things around the safety of the town centre. So we've got a real problem, and our board hasn't got its head around that yet, and that is it's a great worry. We had a board meeting on Zoom last night, and it was very rough. I don't particularly want to see a meeting like that again. And it is quite difficult because there's quite a lot of people who just don't understand what they are supposed to do. And I think what I'm flagging up is that certain business people who possibly aren't affected by the real issues that affect retailers and anybody customer facing with social distancing don't actually understand what actually has to be done. So I'm flagging it up. That might be a problem elsewhere. Public transport. Well, yeah, we have a lot of people coming by bus, and we have a busy railway station. A although a lot of the railway stations, people going out, going into Birmingham. Well, we'll be talking to Travel West Midlands in the near future about what plans they have. Oh yeah, and cycling. The whole of Birmingham.
Yeah, cycling.
I was a cyclist at the start of coronavirus, and I've packed up cycling. It's so dangerous.
Yeah, yeah.
Standard of driving, sort of thing I've seen, real. And when you see the government wanting to spend, goodness knows how many 100 million on it, it's completely barmy. Birmingham, you probably wouldn't realise how hilly that city is. They're everywhere. Very. It's hard work getting anywhere. We're not Amsterdam or Copenhagen. Just float along. It's really, really tough, and you've got to work damn hard just to get anywhere. And I think the whole cycling thing is a complete utter non-starter.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that's a message that the government don't want to hear, but it's ridiculous. So.
I think as well. I think one of the other things, Mike, is I think people in the south, and I'm not a cyclist myself. I did have a bike once, but I much prefer my car. I think the people in the south don't realise how spread out we are, how much space we have when we get further north.
Yeah.
And I was asked to go to a meeting a couple of weeks ago before the lockdown, and they just wanted me to pop to Newcastle for a coffee because they think I lived in Newcastle. And when I explained to them that it's an hour's drive, so it's like 47 miles away, and then it'd probably take me 20 minutes to find car parking space, and then an hour for a coffee, then an hour's drive back. Was that really a great production? They were absolutely shocked that I lived that far away. And I went, yeah, we're quite spread out. We've got lots of space up here. Don't tell anybody. It's like, and people don't realise that when you're in the south. What that's actually like. When's your ballot due, Mike?
Next year.
Next year. So you've got a real challenge then, as far as the bid's concerned.
I'd be honest with you. I think because we've lost things like participants.
You'll have to move close to you.
Because we've lost Marcus, as a phrase, lost Nick, we've lost a few others. I think it's very, very tall order to get renewal, no matter what we do.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get our board to actually say, do you want to go for renewal? Is it worth actually going through all that? Because there's lots of potential redevelopment in our town centre. It might be worth going away, do the redevelopment, and come back whatever form the town centre looks. Because we're in the middle of a master planning process at the same time. So there is a lot going on.
Yeah.
So we do really, really wonder that, and it's the question that no one dares ask. It's going to get asked.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you'll have local authority that are on your board. You've got members of a local authority; they're part of your board. What they should be asking themselves is, what would we be doing if we didn't have the bid here?
Yeah, well, that
it would be left to them.
Yes, it would. That's dead right. But Councillor Fraser was a yes. Mike Ashley, no, that's probably a no. That's 1.5 million turnaround in rateable value, and that's an enormous difference. If you take out M&S, which is it would be a £1.2 million turnaround. All of a sudden, no matter how many little independent businesses and offices you get going, it could just get wiped out. I think that has to be understood. We do have city councillors on the board, and I've had a conversation with one today, and that's his opinion.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, well, thanks for that, Mike. Kenny, are you still there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you loud and clear there. I don't know, were you okay picking all of those conversations up there?
I certainly was, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, would you want to introduce yourself and give us a little bit of an update on Liverpool, Kenny? Okay,
I'm Kenny Brew. I'm the City Centre Streetscene Manager for Liverpool City Council. So I'm employed directly by the council, and obviously I'm front and centre with others in terms of what we're doing to respond to COVID. And as we look to recovery as well, because I think we're now at the stage where we need to be looking ahead. So in terms of some of the stuff that we've done here is that in terms of the business grants, we've now distributed over £75 million worth of grants, and we were very, very good in our turnaround as well. So businesses got the money quite quickly. I think we were looking between 5 and 7 days, I think, to distribute the grants once they've been applied for.
Wow.
Which was good form. Again, we've been working across the piece, so we meet on a daily basis. We have an operational group that meets daily and has done since day 2, basically. So about the 24th, 25th of March, we've met up. That's led by the BID, I have to say, or it's chaired by the BID, but it comes as a subgroup to our crime and the partnerships to our city centre JAG. That's our main group. So we meet every day and we consult with stakeholders across the city centre. The 2 bids, Liverpool 1, and places like Royal Albert Dock as well. Because when we look at the city centre, we look at it in its entirety, and we want to make sure what we're doing, others are doing, and vice versa as well. So we don't want to be, 1, duplicating anything, but 2, what we don't want to ensure is that we've got any sort of tide mark or disjointing for when city centre opens up, hopefully early next month as well. So in terms of, out of all these things come some positives as well. And one of the things we took advantage of over the last few weeks is the lack of footfall, I suppose, within the city centre and the lack of vehicles going through our pedestrian areas. So we've put a lot of street washing into those areas, and it's holding up quite well because it's not getting used as much. So what we've been able to do there is use that resource across the whole of the city centre and look at sort of some of the finer detail, the attention to detail stuff in terms of build lines, weeding, some of the smaller public squares that don't get as much street washing. So we've been managed to do that. We found a little bit of cash to enhance that as well. And then this week we've just taken delivery of a brand new street washing machine, which will be out throughout the day. Again, that's getting the city centre ready, but it's also getting people's confidence up as well, that towns and city centres are clean and safe for when they come back in as well. So it's not what we're just doing in Liverpool. I believe we should be doing that across the piece, across the whole country. In terms of getting ready for early June, which is the date where we're coming back from, we're looking almost applying some of the criteria from Purple Flag, actually, Karen. So, especially around movements, how do we get people in? How do they navigate the city centre? How do we get them back out again? And that's all got to be done safely as well. So obviously, like others, we're talking about one-way systems possibly, especially after the release of government's latest guidance yesterday, which picks up on, urban areas and towns and city centres. I think it's section 4 within that guidance. If you've all had a look, if not, I would heartily recommend that you download a copy of that today and read it. So again, it's how do we get people to navigate the city centre when some of the bigger shops open? We've all probably got a Primark within the town centre. How do people queue outside as they operate? Social distance policies. Cycling, the previous 2 people have picked up on cycling. Liverpool has put £2 million aside to introduce new temporary cycling lanes throughout the city, but on obviously with its main routes into the city centre, as well as extending some pavement areas and possibly looking at pedestrianisation of certain streets within the city centre as well. And for those familiar with the geography of Liverpool, areas like Bold Street and Castle Street, which are now predominantly made up of sort of eateries, coffee shops, it's early, daytime and early evening activity. We're looking at how we can facilitate those businesses, possibly looking at extending pavement cafes, etc. So any questions so far on that?
No. All sounds I mean, those are all great things that you've actually outlined there. But what are the sort of big challenges that you're actually facing then? So that all sounds positive, but it can. I mean, you talk about something like Primark, and it puts the fear of God in me at the moment, thinking about going into somewhere like Primark, and how on earth would they manage a queue of people, and then how on earth would they snake people around the shop? Because at the moment, if you go into the Primark in Middlesbrough, it's like a free-for-all. So I've got no idea how that will look or how that will actually work out, or where that queue will go in the street. It'll just
I mean, they're obviously challenges. So again, working with the two bids within the city centre, we're quite lucky in terms of the geography where some of our bigger stores are. They're on corner locations as well. So, for instance, the Primark in Liverpool, it's huge, but it's on a junction with Church Alley within the pedestrian zone. So we feel we could possibly facilitate crowds going around that building, so they don't interfere so much with the footways, with the wide footways that we've got. So again, yes, there are challenges, but as you know, with me, Karen, I'm a glass half full type of person. So I like to concentrate on the positive. And I think one of the things, I've just got off a Zoom meeting with over 150 people, the Visitor Economy Board. They met this afternoon, in this virtual world. And some of the stuff that was coming out of there, especially with marketing, Liverpool, obviously, but again, this is something that we all should be doing across the piece, is looking for the opportunities. Now, one of the opportunities is how do we market our towns and city centres as well, because this year, especially, there's going to be limited availability of foreign travel, and there'll be restrictions with foreign travel as well. So people will tap into the domestic market as well. So people will still want the weekend break or the week away, but most probably are going to have to spend it within this country. So there's opportunities there as well to swell the local economies, especially when hotels come back into place, which could be, I'm hearing, from July, August possibly.
Yeah. Can I just bring Mike in there and see you?
Just want to say, the last thing I did before lockdown, for a day out in Liverpool.
Couldn't hear that, Mike. What was that?
Right, last thing I did before the lockdown, for a day out.
In Liverpool, all right, you're down in Liverpool.
It was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But I just thought it was really, I think you're dead right. I mean, places like Liverpool, and I'll be really pushing.
Yeah, no, I think you're dead right. I think Liverpool sits there as a great example of the sort of things that we should be doing. They've got the advantage, obviously, of having two bids there as well. And they've also got the advantage of being quite a modern town centre in the fact that certain areas are pedestrianised. And let's not forget, a lot of our historic centres that we've got don't have those wide pavements. They have very narrow pavements. And when you go to historic places like York and Chester and all those places, you're lucky if you get a metre on your pavement. And people, so it's going to have to rethink a lot of the stuff that's going on in those places as well. What about your evening economy, Kenny? Because obviously Liverpool's a great night out.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean that's one of the things again that we're sort of discussing as well. Area, and again for those that are familiar with Liverpool, areas like Concert Square and Matthew Street. Part of the attraction with any nighttime economy, I have to say, is people, isn't it? People want to associate with other people. People like to mix with hundreds, if not thousands of other people. So again, what does any nighttime economy look like with restrictions in place, with social distancing, etc.? So we're all going to face that as well. And again, I think it's a challenge and an opportunity for Purple Flag as well.
Yeah.
Can I just mention as well on that? I mean, there's been a big growth in sort of brewery, microbrewery pubs. We've had about 4 open in the last 2 years in Rotherham, and they are quite small venues. So in terms of social distancing, if they
get 2 people in,
exactly. So if they're going to be cutting down the number of people that they're allowed to serve or be in the premises, is it really worth them reopening? And then if they can't have a street cafe environment because of where they are, if they're close to apartments, etc., which is the case in Rotherham, how are they actually going to survive? We've got 2 pubs in the town centre which are owned by Rotherham's own new brewery called Chantry Brewery, which opened about 5 years ago. So there are 2 pubs owned by them. What they've started doing is, because they've obviously got an excess of beer now, they're starting to actually sell the barrel, like small barrels, which I think is going really well. They're selling them online, and they're doing really well with those. So that's something.
I mean, those when you talk about a business that's going online, right? They're going online. They've diversified a little bit to become an online type of retailer. That doesn't help the evening economy of Rotherham.
No, definitely not.
Running a bar, they might as well shut up the shop on the bar and just run an online business.
Yeah, but I think the pubs that they own, they're quite popular as being live music venues. So that obviously entices people to visit, but obviously that can't happen at the moment. And they're doing a big campaign about Save Our Live Music Venues, which I think a lot of other towns and cities are doing as well.
Can I just come back in on that?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, again, it's not what we're just doing in the UK as well here. With the whole COVID thing anyway, we're sort of 3 weeks behind other places, aren't we? So I think this is where we sort of look out and see what kind of things other major towns and cities doing are across Europe. And I've seen things on social media about greenhouses in Amsterdam and, parklets in America and places like that. So I think we should look at those things as well. But again, as Kat just said there, it depends on the geography and what you've got available within your particular area itself. So again, we're considering extending pavement cafe licenses as well, pavement cafe areas and closing some streets off if we can.
Yeah. Seeing if you could sort of expand the surface area of that particular place to accommodate more people more than anything. I also think as well, when we were talking to this is the idea the other day, the sort of things that they do over in Canada and in America naturally, which is a part of their culture, is when you go into a bar there, you sit down and somebody comes and serves you. You don't go and crowd across a bar like we do here. And that might be something where you go in now, you get a seat, you get a table, then somebody comes along and takes the order, or you order through an app or whatever way that people are actually choosing to do it. And I think the days of being 15 deep at the bar are probably gone for quite a while yet. We're not going to get to that. I think the worrying thing as well is those young people are like clubbing. Now, you can imagine a club, a sweaty club, becoming a real hotbed of infection before long. And you kind of think, if you're not controlling it and offering it, will it happen anyway, but in a secret location, like they used to those raves years ago? Because those people now are saying, I'm really missing clubbing. I can't wait to get back clubbing again. And you sort of think, how's that going to work? How does clubbing fit into the agenda? And I don't think it does.
No, it doesn't.
Can't see it. Can't see it at all. Yeah, go on, Mike.
I had tickets to 6 concerts in April to June, and
you're breaking up again, Mike. Sorry.
I had tickets to 6 concerts in April.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to go to them now. I just don't think that. I think live music is out for a couple of years. There was a report on Radio 4 this morning of the PRS, and they're saying they don't expect live music this year.
Yeah. I had I had the disappointed. First of all, I had tickets for the Peter Kay Dance-a-thon, right, and that was cancelled, obviously. And there I was with my pink tutu and my fluorescent tights and everything, ready to go boogieing in Manchester, right? That was all cancelled. And then I also had tickets for the London baseball series, which was 3 days in London at the beginning of June to watch the baseball at the Olympic Park, and that's all been cancelled. And so you think to yourself, those large-scale events that we had, they're probably going to be way down the line before they allow those things. And I think as well what you said there about people feeling safe in those venues. It's a bit like, no, it doesn't take much to change somebody's behaviour. And I think at the moment we've all got used to our little bubbles in a way. And if I have to go to a supermarket, I haven't been going to a supermarket, I've been going to our local shops. supporting local businesses, getting things like that done, apart from a little co-op and things I've been going in. The thought of me going into Tesco's and queuing, it just fills me with horror at the moment. And I just think that confidence level of somebody saying, how about going into the town centre? I'd have to think carefully about how that was going to work. I certainly wouldn't be going on the train like I would normally from here. I'd probably go in my car. So I'd become a car user again because I feel safer in my own car. And we've had such a big push over the years to get people onto public transport and be more green about their behaviour. Now it seems like it's going the opposite way. Yes, so we're going to have to accommodate more cars. I agree with you that the cycling thing it will take off for some people. There's no doubt it'll take off and it'll be quite novel. But let's be honest, it's light nights at the moment. We're moving towards the summer. Come September, October, November, and you get on a bike, it's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen.
People don't cycle to work in the snow, the pouring rain, and in the wind. And that's the sort of weather that we have. Look at the floods that we were having not long ago, and the horrendous weather. Floods of biblical proportions that we're calling it. And you sort of think, yeah, that's all well and good when it's a sunny day and you want to do a bit of exercise, but arriving at work sweaty with no facilities to have a shower or get changed or anything, it's not going to be an ideal solution to that problem. Yeah. So yeah. Sorry. So I was just thinking there about different things. So moving forward, then, what sort of things? Obviously, we feed a lot of information back. We get an absolute stack of information. We see what's going on base camp. We look at the questions. We upload the information. So if you were looking at your top 3, say, greatest challenges, that you're facing at the moment, what would you say that they were? Is it funding? We can't get away from the fact that local authorities have been stripped down to the bone over the last few years anyway, with austerity. And we can't get away from that. We can't get away from the fact that we all think that our town centres are the great places. We need to maintain that as well. So we need to maintain and drive that footfall back. And then, of course, there's still the threat of internet shopping, AI and stuff like that. So we've still got all of those things that are actually going on in the background. So is there anything else that you want to add to that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would actually say, do people need to go to town? And it's not only the internet, the one end, it's the very local shopping that we've all been doing at the other. Do we actually need a town centre store? And
well, that's a big question, Mike, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I'm pretty profound on a Thursday. But you've just got to. Well, what are you actually missing? And I'm wondering that people have got into a habit of walking to their local centre, their local convenience store. My local convenience store, I can't believe what it smells. It's fantastic. And we've used the big supermarkets less, let alone ordinary shops. And perhaps people will stay in that habit. And like we got a master plan on the development for the town centre. I'm glad the COVID thing happened before it was finished, because it gives them a chance to really reconsider based on what's gone on here and what a town centre actually is.
So it's a good point, Mike, because we are in the midst of our town centre master plan. A large part of that is our Forge Island cinema development. So we are at the stage where we've got a developer on board, and we were about to announce the cinema operator literally days before coronavirus hit. So that's obviously been delayed. But you make a good point about how master plans can then rethink now that coronavirus has happened. A big part of the master plan was about opening up public spaces in our town centre. So maybe that's a positive from it. Is that I think people will feel more comfortable in light and airy spaces. I mean, I think that's what we've got going for our town and city centres at the moment. Is they are light, they are open, fresh air. Whereas if you go into a shopping centre, it's all undercover. You're thinking, is it all recirculated air? That's a bit of a worry. whereas in town centres, you know that you're out in the fresh air all the time. So I suppose that's a positive. That's something that, you know, maybe we should be trying to push for town and city centres.
There was actually something in the paper today about a company that's doing a drive-in cinema in something like 11 locations in the UK. So you actually don't have to get out of your car. You park your car, it's a pop-up screen, you use Bluetooth to get the sound in there, you can take your own stuff and you park your car and you watch the movie. Now, the comments from everybody that was reading that were actually slating, oh God, how terrible is that? It's terrible, I hate that. It costs a fortune. And I thought, I think it's brilliant.
I think
it's absolutely
I would love
brilliant.
to do that.
A car park, it's just a pop-up screen, a wall. Park your car in front of it, connect with Bluetooth, watch a movie through your windscreen.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think those are the things. It's like you look at a cinema, how on earth can you socially distance in a cinema?
Yeah.
And there's another something as well in the Mail today. I saw it online in the Mail. There's a cinema in China that hasn't been open for something like 3 months, and they've gone in to have a look at it. It's gone mouldy because of all of the stuff in the shops. How the stuff in the shops has deteriorated just in a 3-month period.
Yeah.
And closed, and you look at that thing, wow, it looks like Miss Havisham's house. You know, so it's going to throw all sorts of challenges up there, isn't it, really, about what it is that they're actually doing. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that, Kenny? Because I think Liverpool was one of those thriving places.
I think so, because again, I want to remain on the positive side, if I may. I think people are itching to come back into our towns and city centres. So maybe I'm coming in from a completely different angle, but I think we need to seize this opportunity when it does happen. It's like that old saying, isn't it? You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. People are going to be making first impressions when they come back in. So they want an environment that feels safe, that feels clean. Now, I think when that day does come, and if it is the 1st of June, Monday the 1st of June, I think we should be gearing up maybe to treat the return of users almost like we would with any event. So things have got to be put in place to make sure that we can cope with the demand, making sure we can cope with the crowds. Because I think those first few days, those first few weeks will be pleasantly, it'll surprise us that they will be busy as people want to come back in.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit.
You know, the football in Liverpool, I mean, it's not good by any stretch of the imagination, but it's getting steadily better. We're only in the low thousands and all that, but people are coming in because they want a window shop. They're missing town. They want a different atmosphere. They want a different environment. You know, they walk around parks now for 2 months.
Yeah,
you know, they want to come back into the urban environment.
I think people definitely miss the overall experience of shopping. I mean, that's one of the reasons I don't really shop online, because I like that experience in a shop with customer service, and you know, you chat with the shop owner, and I do think people miss that. And I
think as well, I think the confidence. Yeah, no, you did right. And I think the confidence as well will come when people see things actually happening. You know, I've got this thing at the moment about when was the last time the keypad on a car park machine was actually cleaned?
Yeah.
You know, are we gearing up now for contactless stuff? Are our smaller retailers doing contactless?
Yeah.
You know, when you see those things happening. Sorry?
Is this the end of paper and metal currency?
Yeah.
Possibly, Mike.
Yeah, big article in the Sunday Times last week about that very thing, and expect to see a lot less banks. You know, they don't actually need to be. I mean, my wife's a bank cashier, and you know, they are really, really trying to drive people away from branches. And well, we've all been forced not to use cash. I mean, I've had £40 in my wallet for about 6 weeks, and I haven't used it.
Yeah, I think as well, though, there is another side to this as well, though, and I think it's something we need to all be a little bit aware of. And our local authorities will be very, very well aware of this. It's in deprived areas, people still use a lot of cash. And when you start going cashless, it limits the sort of places those people can spend their money. So the prices start to get hiked up. It's a bit like the old gas meter scenario. They paid more per unit for gas when they were using a meter than what they were. Do you think those are the most deprived areas? And what you find, because we have discussions with the Bank of England, is the further north you get in the country, where the areas of deprivation are actually there, the more cash that's actually still in circulation in those areas, and that's for a reason. And I think we need to sort of be very careful with that, because it's okay for people like you and I to say, oh, we'll just use our cards. But there's a lot of people that don't even have that facility. And it still needs to be accommodated.
But I get that, but I don't think the high street banks care.
Oh, no, I don't think they do. I think you're probably right.
I think you are totally right. And the availability of ATMs is another issue. The fact that in more deprived areas, there's a charge for using them. But the companies that provide ATMs are getting stung because people aren't using them to the extent that they used to. And it's just happening whether we like it or not. And other countries have pretty well gone cashless. Sweden.
Yeah.
We might not like it. And everything you've said there, Karen, is totally right. But I think it's actually going to happen. So what a small independent shop in our town centre has at last had to bite the bullet and have a card reader. It's avoided it for years. It's turning business away with people who showed up to buy a baked potato with a card. They had to go away and get the money out to come and buy it, and people didn't, but they're actually doing it. So
yeah,
I think whether you like it or not, it is coming. And
yes.
I think the Bank of England are particularly hard on the high street banks, but they just.
I think you're right. I think it's happening, but there's certain areas we need to be aware of. The other thing is, we haven't touched on as well, and I haven't heard much about, is homelessness. Because obviously homelessness is still a big issue out there in our towns and cities. Is there anything else out there that's actually happened? Anything that's changed? Anything that that is of concern there?
Okay. In terms of Liverpool, alternative accommodations being found through this period, so people obviously can keep a social distance, self-isolate. So they've all been found accommodation. We've got very, very few people that have remained on the street, I have to say, throughout the last sort of 7 weeks or so.
Will that continue?
Well, that's, again, going to be one of the challenges, isn't it? I suspect some of the units where people are housed at the moment will be the short-term lets, really, so they'll be used for other things. But hopefully the people that have been rehoused have now got the support and that they need to get themselves off the street permanently.
I suppose it's put them on the radar, hasn't it, more than anything else?
Yeah,
definitely. Kat, have you got anything there?
Yeah, it's similar in Rotherham. I mean, we haven't got a big homeless problem in Rotherham, obviously, compared to cities. And as far as I'm aware, there are lots of services that have been working with them to provide help and support and to provide accommodation. When I was in town last week, there was someone begging. I don't think they were homeless. I just think they were begging. Yeah. So, but with the reduced footfall in the town centre, I can't. I don't imagine it was.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Mike, anything in Sutton Coldfield?
I haven't got any plan on homeless. We don't have that many, and I haven't seen them. So I think they've gone elsewhere. I suppose I'm interested to see what happens when the office business community comes back, because we've got a large one, and that's where the narrow streets are, and I don't see how you social distance on any of those streets. But all those individual businesses will be dealing with how they lay their offices out themselves, and I think there'll be a mix of home working and people in the office, and I think that will be dealt with. I don't think it's a particular issue for local authorities or bids or anything there. They will do what they need to do and make it work.
I think as well, I think it'll be very interesting what happens with the economy when the business sector come back, because the income generated from the lunchtime economy, when you have a full quarter of businesses in place and offices actually occupied, is really big. Now, if people are starting to work from home more, they're staggering working hours differently, you may see an impact, something during there. But I just think that's just one of those things that's going to evolve.
Yeah.
It's going to evolve, and I think, I think a lot of the things that are happening now might have happened in the longer term anyway, but just been accelerated.
Yeah, it's
to a point and brought into focus more.
It's the same as the cash thing. And don't forget, there's some businesses, and this came out of our board meeting yesterday, are doing very well, thank you, out of this.
Yeah.
Their particular business has gone through the roof. And they're working from home and they're doing very nicely. So it's not a total disaster everywhere.
Yes, yeah.
There's a case-by-case basis, and unless you understand how that business and that sector works, aren't really pretty.
Yeah. I think as well, I think those businesses, those smaller businesses that have been a little bit more resistant to change over the years, and we all have them in our towns and cities, don't we? That they've always done it this way, so that's the way it's always going to be done. And this is the way we've been here for how many years and all that stuff. Those are the businesses that we're going to probably see struggle in a lot of ways. And then we will lose a lot of those businesses. But as the demand increases, it's like you mentioned there about micro pubs and things. Some of those pubs will fall, they'll fail. But then when the market picks up again, others will pop up. And I think it's a repurposing of the spaces and what we do in between times that's going to be the big telling thing, the big question mark on, do we have lots of vacancies, or do we start to, we've been saying for long enough that our town centres are too big. Do we start to use this as an opportunity to condense what it is that we've actually got and make more of a quality offer? I mean, Liverpool's a little bit different to Sutton, Coldfield and Rotherham. I mean, I think, the retail offer, it relies a lot on the retail offer. And I think the retail offer, because of its scale, will drive some people back into Liverpool. Well, quite a lot of people back in, because that's what you enjoy doing when you were in there. Fantastic. And it's just, and I think smaller places might repurpose, they might revisit what it is they are. And like Mike said earlier on, work out what is it we actually need. What do we need for our town centres now? So interesting times.
I mean, just on that, Karen, as well. I mean, Liverpool, as you know, and everybody else probably does, has expanded rapidly over the last sort of decade or so.
Yeah.
The city centre's grown within the last 3 to 4 years with Baltic Triangle and the Brewery Village taking off, to name but 2 places. It will expand northwards over the next few years, hopefully with the new football stadium and the regeneration of the North Docks, But Liverpool, I have to say, it's got a lot of independence, So these areas have grown through mainly independence rather than nationals.
And those independents rely on the nationals to bring in the footfall as well.
They do.
And the whole thing complements each other, doesn't it? You get the diversity, but then you get the concentration of people that come in. And it's the management of those people that's going to be the challenge.
So.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks very much for that. That was I hope you found that interesting.
Very good.
Yeah, really good, really useful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to be doing these every week. I'm going to try and do one every Thursday at 2:00, hopefully with different people. You know where we are. You know how to get hold of us. We're here for the good things as well as the bad things. So if you need us, you know where we are. Keep posting on Basecamp. That's where we're doing the most of our activity at the moment. And thank you for joining me this afternoon.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.